And we are live. I am really excited to be talking about a win today. As you can see, I don't have a guest with me right now, but we will have Dave Dalton joining us, the Pistons fanatic, after he gets done recording his podcast to go through tonight's game. But wow, the Pistons win. They defeat the Nets, I think, by 16 points in the end. I'm just checking the score to make sure of it. We've got heaps to talk about. Yeah, so the Pistons win by 14 points. Final score 106 to 92 in Brooklyn in a game that was kind of a tale of two halves. Uh, and there's a lot of positives to talk about tonight, specifically in the second half. So I'm going to go through a few things here. But before I do, uh, as I mentioned, I do have Dave joining me probably in like 15 minutes, I'd like to think. So if you want to jump up now and come talk with me about tonight's game, please shoot me a DM. I'll keep an eye on those. Or if you want to jump on after Dave, by all means, feel free. All you have to do is DM me. I'll bring you up on the stage here. I send you a link, and you literally just need your phone, a computer, and that's it to join. There's no crazy technology required to come up here and talk to me. Shout out to the chosen one. We did win. I don't know. That might have been you commented on one of my shorts saying that the Pistons will beat the Nets. I must admit, before I just get to like the actual game here, like I was really nervous about tonight's game, and I think we saw why in the first half. But I just thought tonight was an absolute must win, and I am so relieved that they won because now you move to 2-5. I think that's genuinely kind of what record this team should have with how they've played. Now you could say they probably should have got a win over the Pacers or Celtics, but I think to be 2-5 with the schedule they've had, they're about to play their second back-to-back tomorrow against the Lakers. So it's an absolutely brutal schedule. And to be 2-5, I'm feeling like good. There's so much stuff for this team to work on, and it's more than any other season. I'm finding myself so frustrated watching these games, but I think to be 2-5, you've beaten two teams you should have beaten, and you've beaten them on the road. I think, like, for me coming into this season, I thought this team was going to be competitive on their home court, but on the road, I just felt like they could lose to anyone. It doesn't matter the talent. So to get two wins over Philly and Brooklyn, teams that they have more talent than, I believe, on the night that they've played, I think that's a tick. And they won by double digits again. They did that in Philly. So whilst there is frustrating points in these games, it's encouraging to see them close it out and win by double digits. We've seen fourth quarter collapses, particularly in that first week. But I think it's really, really nice to see them in both these wins close the deal. And I think that's where I'm going to open this one because the guys who are closing the deal, I feel like on the most part, have been the vets. Uh, I think tonight, I think 6 or 7 players scored in double digits, 6 players, and no one scored 20 points, but everyone scored between 14 and 19. And I just think, like, the vets, in my opinion, they get the game ball. And those 3 players are the 3 new veterans: Tobias Harris, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Malik Beasley. I'll quickly just rattle off their stat lines, then we're going to go through each player individually. But Tobias, for me, he finished with 18 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 62% from the field. Finally hit a three, even if he was only 1-4, and only the one turnover. He had a team high, second team high, plus 12 in terms of plus minus. And then we also had Malik Beasley, 18 points, 4 of 11 from deep. He had the team high plus 18. And then Tim Hardaway Jr., 14 points, knocked down 3 triples, 56% from the field. Those 3 guys, for me, when the game was there to be won, came through. And I want to start with Tobias. I thought he had a stretch. Oh, man, this game's a bit blurred to me. I think it was at the start of the fourth or maybe the end of the third where they threw it down to him in the post. It felt like 4 consecutive possessions. 3 of them, he hit a turnaround jumper, which is just money for him on mismatches. And then one, he kicked it out to, I think it was Malik Beasley, who drained a 3. And it was like that 2-minute stretch where he came through was like that. That is what we want from Tobias, but it was so key because I think the game was in the balance and that little strip. Yeah, here we go. James has got me. Appreciate you, bro. So yeah, he just had this little takeover, and that is like what you need from your vets and what you need from Tobias specifically, who's the guy out of all these vets who can create his own bucket a little bit. And I just thought that stretch was so key. And even if the final stat line doesn't blow you out of the water, go back, like James says here, and watch the end of that third. He took over, and that's just what they need because Cade, Ivy, they were okay tonight. They definitely had their positives. I thought JI was better in the first half. Cade made some plays in the second. I'll talk about them later. But I just like, I think Tobias really helped. Like, it was so key in that moment. And I think he deserves a lot of credit. And I think now he's put together like I know the Pistons got blown out by the Knicks, but his past 3 games, I think he scored 18 tonight, 18 in Philly. He's rebounding the ball well. I thought even against the Knicks, like I said, he was the only one who kind of showed up offensively. I know Cade had 22, but 3 solid games for him to build from. I was really impressed with him. And look, he has his flaws, but I think if he can come through in those moments, particularly on the road, but anywhere, like that is Pistons fans are going to really start to enjoy this signing and see like why certain people thought this was a decent signing. The next guy I think we have to talk about is Malik Beasley. Uh Man, he hit. I think it was within 6 points, and I think the Pistons almost turned it over, but were lucky to get away with a foul on the nets, and the Pistons inbounded it. They had the ball baseline, 1.5 seconds on the shot clock. Malik Beasley darts to the corner in front of Brooklyn's bench and hits this tough fade away 3 all net. And that was like when I was like, okay, I think they got this. I think there was still like 7 minutes to go or something, but I was like, I think they've got this. And he was huge. I just read his stat line before, but 18 points, 29 minutes, team high plus 18. He hit numerous, numerous important buckets and 6 of 15 from the field, but I think it's important to remember like 11 of those are from 3, and he's a volume guy. He's a quick trigger shooter. I always like the thing I like about him is he's just going to let it fly. There's no hesitation. Like we've seen guys like Tobias and Fontecchio hesitate on threes and travel or just give up shots they should be taking. You'll never get that with Bees. And even if there is some shots he takes that are questionable, like I just love his quick trigger and because it keeps the defense so honest. And I just thought tonight he made key buckets once again, like these vets. Like it was just so good to see all 3 clicking. And, that'll lead me to talk about Tim Hardaway Jr. Only played the 22 minutes, but 14 points, 3 threes. Once again, shot 50% from deep, 56% from the field. And I just thought, like he even had that dunk. He had that dunk. It's the Pistons posted it. I didn't know he could get up like that. I'm not sure I want to call it a poster, but there's a defender right there. So we'll give it to him, like, especially at the age of 32, 33, I think he is. I hope I'm not adding some extra years on there. But, you know, I think he missed his first couple of wide open threes, and then I think he went 3 or 4 key shots once again in the third, maybe hit one in the fourth. But yeah, that dunk was in the fourth. And yeah, the vets, just quickly doing the math in my head here, combined for 50 points. They knock down 8 threes between them and they shoot, I'm assuming, over 50% combined. So we finally got that game where all 3 play well and the Pistons win. Yes, it's against the Nets, but with this Pistons team, honestly, especially if it's on the road, I don't care who they're playing. I just want them to win. I think any win on the road is a win. It doesn't matter who they're playing because this team is starting, whether we want to admit it or not, like they kind of are starting at the bottom. Like you can't be any lower than they were last season. So we take any wins, even if there are frustrating moments. They still turn the ball over 18 times, 17. But I think give credit where credit is due. The vets came through; they were huge. The next point I want to get to, I'll get to some of your guys' comments in a moment here, but I just want to get this off my chest as well. I think someone's mentioning this, but JB Bickerstaff, people are going to critique his X's and O's stuff, particularly on offense, but his energy and his passion, I absolutely love it. There was a moment which go check my Twitter now if you want to see what I'm talking about. But I think there was around 7 minutes to go in the third quarter. Dennis Schroeder clearly pushed off Tim Hardaway Jr. around the elbow on a pull up. Uh, like whole forearm, like just pushed THJ off. And THJ exaggerated the contact, which I think is probably what hurt him in the end because the ref thought he was flopping because he kind of did a little bit. But it was still a clear offensive foul. And JB was livid because the Nets, I think Schroeder hit that and the Nets went up by 8 points. 7 minutes to go in the third, plenty of time to go, but you're on the road. It's a key point in the game. And he was livid. He was jawing at the ref, and then he followed him over to the other side of the court. He had to be pulled back by Luke Walton, and Cade ran over to kind of settle things down. And then from that point on, after JB like just lit, I feel like JB lit a fire in his team. Like, the Pistons looked flat until that point, energy wise. Like, I think if you watch this whole game, I know a lot of people are watching the Lions, and I don't blame you. But if you watch this game, that first half, they were flat. It was a concerning kind of first half, I thought, for the most part. But from that point on, they played with a different energy. And I tweeted this out. I'm just going to read it to make sure I get it right. So at the moment of this happening, Detroit were down by 8 points. And then from that point, the Pistons went on a 14-4 run to close the third quarter and took the lead. So, there's definitely other things that happened. The Nets were missing free throws. They were turning it over. They were pretty sloppy. But the Pistons' energy picked up from that moment that JB lit some form of fire in his team. And I just love to see it. I think JB, every game, his energy is so high. I mean, I watched his press conference, and half the time his voice is half gone. Like, and I just think it was, it's after what we saw last year. I'm not going to say his name, but like after what we saw last year, it's so nice to just see a coach that is into it every possession. He's got his guys' backs. Like even before the game, I just love seeing me like before the tip off. I saw him and Cade hugged at the scorer's table, and he said something in Cade's ear, just like getting his guys ready to go. And like maybe that should be a baseline for NBA coaches, but I'm just loving JB's energy, and every night he is into it and he cares. And I think Pistons fans should be, whilst you might be critical of some of his substitution patterns here and there, like it's still very early, but I think what we're seeing from him is, yeah, I love it too, James. I love him and Stu's connection as well. He seems to really understand Stu. Um, but I think what we're seeing from JB is just encouraging, and for a team that's rebuilding, I think it's a really good fit so far. So yeah, once again, James, agree with you here, man. Great call from you. Uh the next point, actually, I'm just going to read a couple of these comments first. Love this from WLG Penguin. They're going to win tomorrow as well. I mentioned it, but Detroit now have the Lakers at home on a back-to-back. This schedule, man. I don't want to keep using it as an excuse, but I think Bally Sports not Bally Sports. What's it called now? FanDuel Sports. Sorry, my mistake. They put up a graphic saying the Pistons have had the fifth or sixth worst, toughest schedule so far. That doesn't even. I feel like they've had the worst, but maybe that's from a Pistons fan. But yeah, they got the Lakers. I think getting this win tonight is so good because the Lakers, last time I checked, are 3-2. Uh, the way they've been executing on offense at times, I think could expose the Pistons. But, at home, I think the Pistons haven't beat the Lakers in a while, I feel like. So maybe they're due for a win, but I hope they win tomorrow as well. That'd be awesome. I think LCA is going to be packed. I've seen a lot of people talking about they got tickets to the game. So I think LCA is going to be rocking tomorrow, even if it is a lot of Lakers fans. Hopefully they can come out and put on a show for all those going and us watching. Andrew Peck needed this from Durant. Transform the defense to have him dialed in and blocking shots. You know what? Let's just talk about JD now. I was going to get to him next. So great call, Andrew. I think it was so encouraging to see that second half performance. I thought in the first half, while the stats looked good, he had 4 turnovers. he was trying to do too much at times, just with bringing the ball up the court. It was a like whilst he had some nice plays, I think the first half was it was disappointing first half. But the thing I absolutely loved was he did not let that poor first half with turnovers deter him. I thought in the third quarter he was solid, and then in the fourth quarter, as you mentioned here, dialed in. I think he had all three blocks. He had two blocks in the first half, but they were nice. But then he had a really key block in the fourth, and I just thought his energy activity. I think he had a steal as well in the fourth. Um, Rebounding. I think he had 17 boards tonight, 4 assists. Um, you know, still plenty to work on, but I think to fight through and just mentally close the game strong, I was really impressed with. Because I think JD, the box scores are always going to look amazing with him. Unless he gets into foul trouble, he's going to get a double double. He's going to get a couple of assists. He's going to get a block or a steal. But I love that he fought through after having a frustrating first half. And Vulture brings it up here. Not gonna lie, Durant shut me up with that defensive game. Still need more, but wow, I'm with you, man. I want him to shut me up. I want him to shut us all up because I think most of us are sort of fair with our criticism. I think some people go a bit overboard, but I think the criticism is fair at this point. And you know, tonight I'll sing his praises, even if I thought he had a couple of things in the first half. That second half, he shut us all up. So I love the the honesty there, Vulture. Um, and yes, I agree. Great game for sure. Um, yeah, JD. Like now he's going to have a huge test tomorrow against AD and the Lakers. AD arguably is. Oh, I don't think this is arguably. I think he's top three in the MVP race early going. I think when the Lakers were 3-0, he was sitting atop that. Even if it's early, he's playing some amazing basketball under JJ Redick. So huge, arguably like I mean, Jokic and Embiid are probably bigger tests, but AD's right there. So, and AD is a guy that he's the best defender of those centers I just mentioned. So, how JD handles him, not that JD is going to be trying to create his own offense or anything crazy, but AD's active, he can steal. If JD's not, if he's JD's lazy with his handoffs and that kind of thing, AD will make you pay. So, big test tomorrow. How does he go against AD defensively, obviously, and then how does he deal with him offensively? Because solid game tonight, but I will say Nick Claxton didn't start. They started Ben Simmons at the 5. So whilst I think JD did a good job, it's probably not the toughest competition, but that's not to take anything away from him. It's just being honest about the gap in terms of who he played today and who he'll play tomorrow. Hopefully this gives him confidence. And yeah, I think that's a really good game for him to build from and a real mature second half performance. Moving on here. Here we go. Man seated. Absolutely at Pistons, Jack. The vets are the difference this year versus last. And JB was fiery, unlike the last guy. Go Pistons. Yeah, I just spoke about it. It's absolutely great call from you, man seated. Um, yeah, those two things there, that was the game for me. There's other things to like, and I thought we just spoke about Duran, and we'll talk about Caden Ivey, but those 2 points there, that's a great summary of tonight's game for sure. Just Football Academy Australia. And I got a question for you as well. Last time in the last stream, I said, because I know you live in Sydney, I said Sydney was like LA. I need you to give me, and you said, no, don't compare us to that. I need you to give me a US city comparison for Sydney, just for future reference. But here we go. I believe that Monty was also controlled by the front office. There was an element of playing the young guys over coaching the game and getting wins. I can. I kind of think Monty was going against the front office for much of the first half of the season until he was told has to play Jaden Ivey, which I think was kind of an obvious thing. But no, I can understand why you might think that for sure. I think last year was just an absolute mess, and to be honest, like, whilst I still sometimes think I need a therapy session from that season, I think a lot of us do. Yeah, I'd like to forget it. I've done Vulture. Here we go. Just Football Academy again. I hope the Detroit fans don't chant Bronny's name, please. Well, I think I don't think Detroit fans will. I think it's going to be the Lakers fans in the house. They always. Yeah, I think Toronto by far, when they play in Detroit, have the loudest fans, and I think that's because, well, I know that's because Canada's close by. Um, but the Lakers, Celtics, and Warriors, they tend to have quite loud crowds at LCA. So particularly, I mean, I've only experienced the Pistons as a average to horrible team. So it feels like that's just kind of how it is at the moment. But I'm with you. I hope we don't hear Bronny chance. Uh, I'm just going to quickly check my DMs, guys, to see if Dave is ready. No, he must be still doing his podcast. I'm just going to drop him the link to join when he's ready. So next point I had written down here was Caden Ivey. I'll get to some more comments after this, but Kate Cunningham and Jaden Ivey, I thought, they both were. I'm gonna say overall below average. And I think it's great the Pistons won and they didn't need their backcourt to fire. I think that's a positive, for sure. And so I'll go through some stats here. Cade finished with 19 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 62% from the field. That's a solid game, but then the 7 turnovers, which you just can't have. And then Ivy, 15 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Similar stat line to Cade. He had a block and a steal as well, but 4 turnovers. And he shot 27% from the field. Missed some threes, some wide open ones. I feel like that's going to happen from time to time. But he also, I thought Ivy was a bit unlucky to not get more free throws. He took 7 tonight, but I honestly thought there was at least 2 more instances he should have got more. But overall, I feel like at times he forced things. Yeah, I think look, you still get 34 points out of them, 11 assists. The turnovers are really just the thing that hurts you there. But the Pistons overcome it. I thought Ivy in the first half was decent. Like his shooting percentages all night weren't the best, but I thought he, attacked the rim. I thought, like I said, he should have got some more fouls. I like some of the kick out passes he made to shooters. Second half, I didn't really. I think he only scored 1 bucket or a free throw. But I didn't really notice him out there. And I think JB he put Beasley in for Ivy late to close this one out. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was the right call. I think JR just didn't have it in the second half, and that's fine. He's a young guy. You want to see him put it together every night, but I think it's good. You can go to Beasley, who was playing better when they needed it. And yeah, just probably a below average. I'm not going to say bad game for Ivy, just below average. And then Cade, honestly, I don't know if it's because he's turning it over so much these days or I'm just so used to them, but I don't know. I don't I didn't notice all 7, but it definitely felt like he had at least 4. And like I don't want to sound like a broken record, but you just can't have 7. Yes, he's a high usage player, but I think 4 I think is acceptable for a guy of like his usage, but I think once we're at 5 and definitely over 5, that's when you're hurting your team. So, you know, JD, Cade, and Ivy combined for 15 of Detroit's 17 turnovers. So they're all young, but you just can't have that. It's too much to overcome, and they won tonight, which is great. But you're doing that on a consistent basis, you're not going to win. So, especially from your 3 of your 6 main players. So, but I thought Cade made some key shots. I think he only had like 8 in the first half, so he had 11 in the second half. Hit a couple of key buckets in the fourth. Take away some of those turnovers, and I think you take that game from Cade in the win for sure. But yeah, the turnovers put a bit of a dampener on it. Going to get to some more comments here. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Cade and Ivy's games in particular. I thought they were just, like I said, below average games, but always keen to hear your guys' thoughts. Pistons next. The defense helps from the perimeter way too often. I don't know if they overestimate the shooter, reading the possession slowly, or don't trust their teammates. They cleaned it up a bit in the second. They do, and I think I don't know if we're talking about the same thing here. Pistons next, but Cam Johnson, particularly in that first half, got open way too much, like on in the corners. Maybe we're talking about a different thing here, but like I definitely thought some of the help at times, like yeah. And I know you're talking about them overestimating certain shooters, but I thought sometimes they leave good shooters. Um, I thought as well sometimes Jalen Duran was just playing way too up on Ben Simmons on the perimeter and opening things up in the paint. Uh, yeah, I thought at times Caden Ivey didn't fight hard enough over screens that left Jalen Duran in a vulnerable spot trying to defend two players. So which he already struggles with, but it's still not. It's hard for him to, uh, contain two guys when your guards just aren't fighting hard enough. But I thought in the second half, like you said, they cleaned it up a bit, and I think the defense was a lot better. Um, I think what did they hold the Nets to? I think 92 in the end. I'm going to check what the second half was, um, because it felt like there was a shift, particularly in the third. Sorry, here we go. Yeah, so Brooklyn only scored 35 points in the second half and 15 in the last. So Detroit score 53 in the second half. So uh yeah, big turnaround. It's encouraging. Hopefully they can take some things from that after what I thought was a pretty poor first half. But yeah, couple more questions slash statements here. Tobias played beautifully, bro. Yeah, he did. That's like I've spoken about Tobias a fair bit so far, but that's like what you want from Tobias and what I think we all expected. An efficient 18 points, 4 or 5 boards, and then a few assists. He finishes with 6 assists tonight, which is probably double what you'd expect. So that if there's a way to summarize like Tobias's game, like that was it tonight. 1 of 4 from three. He's not a guy that's going to hit a heap of threes. Obviously, you probably want to see that more at 2 or 5, but I think he's a guy's probably only going to take like 4 a game. He much more prefers to be in the mid range. But tonight he hit those key shots, and I think that game, if Tobias can give you that consistently, he's worth the contract, and you can see why. Uh, I think a lot of Pistons fans thought he could help this team, beyond the ones that just want to. I think it's mainly Philly fans that get into the comments of Pistons stuff and, uh, yeah, try and cook Tobias for his 0 point game. But yeah, I agree, Vulture. Like beautiful game from him, and I think that's what we should all expect going forward. Oh yes, just football. Here we go. Unfortunately, Sydney is known as a glamour city. I personally value culture, blue collar, etc. Let's just keep it on the low. I don't know the US well enough to provide an example. So maybe I was right. I've only been to Sydney like once or twice, and I've been to LA twice. So I don't know. Maybe my comp was right. Vulture once again. I feel like after the half, the energy needs to be better, more uplifting. We closed out though. Yeah, well, that was the thing. They coming out of the third, like they got down. I'm not sure what the halftime score was exactly. I think they were down 4 or 5, and then the Nets, like we went through with that JB Bickerstaff moment, the Nets got up by 8 with 7 minutes to go. But as you mentioned, they closed strong, and like, I would like to think some of it was JB lighting a fire under them, getting into the refs, like just backing his guys. But give credit to the players as well. Like they're the ones on the court doing the thing. So, um, JB can ignite them and lead them, but they got to execute, and they did. So, uh, really fun game. Another guy I wanted to talk about was Simone Fontecchio. He still can't hit a shot. I think tonight I think he hit 1 3. I think he started like 7 points. Yeah, tonight he had 7 points, but I loved the rebounding from him. He had 8 boards, and I just thought his presence, physically, like, whilst look, I still think this foot injury is bothering him defensively. Not that I think he's an amazing defender, but I think he showed more last year. But I think, I love the rebounding. I thought he just had some really key plays. And I think did he close? I don't think he closed the game, but yeah, I just felt he made some really key plays, and uh, I hope the shot starts falling because he missed a couple of open ones. You want to see him make like 1 of 7 on the night isn't gonna help, but I think hopefully he can continue to build from this. Um, and yeah, once the shots start falling for him, he's I don't put him in that group of vets because he's only been in the NBA for like 3 years, but he is 28 years old. So he really is a vet. But yeah, once he can start clicking, because I don't think he's clicked at all offensively. Like I think he's had moments, but I think a lot of us thought he was, should be in the starting lineup. Uh, the way he's played so far, I don't think he should. THJ has been shooting the lights out, and if it's not THJ, I think it's Beasley. But I think I say that to say like Fontecchio has the ability to start if he can get back to where he was last season. So yeah, I thought though still solid game tonight, even if the shot wasn't falling, which is important. Um, Pistons next. Cade was gapping way too far or just leaving them open. No way JB is telling them to leave Cam open or not to go back if they do help. This was a below average defense that executed down the stretch. Yep, I agree. Well summarized. I know those two plays, particularly in the first, I think it was the first quarter, Cam Johnson hit like back to back corner threes. I think, well, and correct me if I'm wrong, Pistons next, but I'm pretty sure he was coming to help. Well, no, they weren't on Simmons post ups. Maybe I can't remember, but I remember like he helped, and it was just like you can't leave Cam Johnson open, especially after he's just hit a three in the same spot. That they were tough. But um, going through the game, I'm trying to think of some other talking points. Who else actually got on the court tonight? Isaiah Stewart, 13 minutes, fouled out, got a tech. Forgettable game for him. He didn't take a three tonight, but he was still smiling on the bench at the end. I liked his energy, like just on the bench there after having a rough night to still be in it. I know it's easier when you win, but had 2 blocks. Um, I think one thing I will talk about here is kind of I'm not sure if Nick Claxton's injured or has been injured, but based on what I've seen, um, I think I said the Pistons should go after him in the offseason. Put out some starting lineups with him at the center position. Very, very early still, but and I think he would be the Pistons' best center when he's healthy. But yeah, sometimes he just doesn't look very into it. I don't know. He just seems very passive out there. But maybe he's coming back from injury. But 4 of 12 from the free throw line as well. Like that's brutal. So I think the Pistons might have missed one there, or they didn't even go near Claxton that I'm aware of. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, he really really struggled. Um, I'm just gonna check what Dave's up to. Um, all right. Well, I still haven't heard back from Dave, but I assume he shouldn't be far off. It's probably just going a bit longer talking about the win. It's always nicer to talk about a win. um, Pistons next. I don't know what Cade was doing because he wasn't in position to really affect the ball in action, and I think that's a frustrating thing. But like you said, at least they executed down the stretch. Um, Asar's perimeter defense would have helped a ton with Cam Johnson tonight. Thought the same thing when we played Tatum. Absolutely, Drake. Couldn't agree more. I think uh, the Pistons, yeah, I think I've said it. Not just me, so we've all said it. Like the Pistons desperately need Asar because they just don't have anyone like a defensive stopper. I thought the Pistons did well on Cam Thomas tonight. I think what did Thomas finish? Did he get double digits? Cam Thomas, oh, he still got 17 points. I feel like he was very quiet tonight. Maybe he got some buckets when the Pistons had that double digit lead. But yeah, I actually really like some of the stuff I saw from Ivy on Cam Thomas when he was matched with him. Some people might say Cam Thomas just had an off night shooting because he's a volume shooting guy. But I thought the Pistons handled him well. He'd been averaging 28 points coming into tonight's game. So to get that, to limit him to only 17, I know Cam Johnson got off a little bit in the first half with 18 points or so. But Cam Thomas is a guy that because he can create so well off the dribble and in the mid range that if you let him get going, he can, you know, win you games. Even I know a lot of people say he's a good stats, bad team guy, but yeah, yeah, no, we need a Saar back. I mean, I'll ask you guys in the comments what 'cause and I'll get to my thoughts in a sec, but what do you think when do you think we'll see Asar back on the court? I just always curious to see where people's heads are at because I see some people. It's just one extreme to the other when I see people talking about Asar. I think we all are in agreement that whenever he comes back, that it should be because he's fully healthy, zero risk, he's ready to go. Like I think that goes without saying. But uh, I must admit, like for me, like we are now close. We are pretty much 2 weeks into the NBA season. We are definitely oh well over a month since uh media day when we found out about this, and that Asar wasn't going to participate in training camp and preseason. So I think to be this far into the season and still have no update is concerning just in the sense that if you're wanting to see him before like the new year, I think. Um, and I wish I knew off the top of my head how long it took Koloko to come back. I think it's Christian Koloko was on the Raptors last season and they had to sit him out. I'm not sure when the blood clot issue for him came up, what point in the season, but I believe he sat out pretty much the whole season. And then he got cleared and signed with the Lakers this offseason, very late in the offseason, like I think just before almost media day. Um, and I think he's fully cleared now, but that sounds like it was a 12-month process potentially. So I think not to be negative, I think this is just how I feel and how I think like the Pistons should prepare is like I tend to think we probably won't see him this season. And I like that's just the vibe I feel like, and that's fine. It's obviously disappointing for this team, but if that's what it takes to get him back on the court, that's completely fine. But yeah, for me, like, because Pistons next brings up a good point here. I feel it's either right after the All Star break or next season. Yeah, so like if he's cleared after the All Star break, part of me is just kind of like, whilst it's an injury that could have well, it's a health problem, not so much a physical like a strain or something. Like whilst it can happen at any moment, I feel like you would just be better off to if it's going to be in Feb, just to like give him another whole off season, be as cautious as you can, and just bring him back for year three because he's still, I think he's 21, 22 years old. Like he's so young. Like there's this team, whatever point they're at come February, like they're going to have done it without a Asar. And if they're really bad, then it's like there's definitely no point bringing him back. But if they're say for some reason they're in playing contention, then it's like they've gotten to that point without him. So whilst he would be a bonus, I just think like just rest him. Yeah. So I'm with you, Pistons next. Like I think it's definitely after. I think it will be after the new year. We really start to hear things. Yeah, we like this is all just hypothetically speaking and guesses. Maybe tomorrow we get some great news, but um I just think the fact we've heard like pretty much a zero, like in terms of official updates, like obviously he's on the injury report every day and the beat reporters do a great job of like getting us clips of him doing kind of some workout stuff. But I think on the most part, yeah, there's been no official chatter about his return from the organization that I've seen or from any of, the the likes of Shams, or we don't have Woj anymore, but any like national reporting, we haven't really seen anything. So, uh, yeah, I would love to have him back. Can you imagine him out there right now? Like, because Ron Holland kind of had a bit of a rough game tonight, I thought. And just if Asar had Ron's minutes, I think, like, I mean, Asar would have way more than Ron's minutes. I think based on what we've seen this season, maybe Asar probably would be starting by now, just based on the Pistons' struggles defensively. Like, I didn't have Asar in my starting lineup in the like when we we're just talking when we're talking like August, September predictions. But I think based on what we've seen, I think Asar probably would definitely be starting. So imagine getting at least 28 minutes a night for his defense. I think I don't know how many more games the Pistons would have won, but I think that shellacking we saw them undergo at LCA the other night doesn't happen within 6 minutes of the game beginning. Uh, but I think, yeah, it's a shame. But and obviously we all hope he's back next game. Vulture here says, I believe you're right. They must play it safely on a star blood clots could literally break your career. Absolutely. And it's honestly like they're life threatening. Like yeah, we saw what happened to like Taylor Hendricks last week, which is just a gruesome injury. But ultimately, like he's, even with an injury that gruesome to your like lower leg, like most guys come back and play NBA basketball, even if they're like Gordon Hayward and never get fully right again, like you're still back playing NBA basketball. But yeah, blood clots and these kind of those things are just scary because you can't. I'm not a doctor. I don't know how you like. I don't even want to know the difficulty in the decision making process for that must be insane. Like, and like I can see why it takes so long. That's why like you won't see me or I think a lot of Pistons fans pounding the door for like give us an update, the beat reporters or the organization, because I think we understand how much of a cautious situation it is. Um, Pistons next. Thanks for all the comments, by the way, guys. Appreciate you. I'm soloing it up here. I feel like I've got most of my thoughts out about that game while we wait for Dave. So I appreciate you guys helping me out here. It's kind of wild how Cade and Nassar's rookie years showed huge promise. Yeah, this is a great course. Second year, they are on the shelf as the new rookie who play their position gets extended minutes, and third year they blossom. You know what? That is a great call. Well, it's one I wish we weren't experiencing and hadn't experienced with Cade, but it's a lot of similarities for sure. Obviously, Cade was out year two in Ivy's rookie year. Ivy started playing point guard, which was Cade's position. And then, yeah, Asar out in Ron Holland's rookie year, and Ron and Asar uh, they are different players, but they're the similar mold in terms of athletic wings who, in theory, are really good defenders and can do some stuff offensively. But yeah, that's crazy. Um, it's it's horribly unlucky for the Pistons that your top five picks, like if we think about it, like I saw obviously Paolo Banchero went down for the Magic, which sucks. We hope he's back on the court, but I think it was a torn pec. And it's like, I don't know. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Magic last season barely had any injuries. Uh, Paolo, Franz, Suggs. I know Isaac's always injured, but I look at Isaac as a part of a different rebuild. Um, just feel like their young guys have been healthy, like the Rockets. I guess Shangoon went down second half of last year. But just, yeah, maybe I'm just feeling sorry for myself as a Pistons fan, but you're like Cade and Asar. Like I still can't believe like that Cade going down in his second year like that. That's one thing that for Troy Weaver's tenure, that was probably that was some serious like how did I say this? It's just unlucky. Like to lose your franchise piece. Like sure, they should have done a much better job of surrounding Cade. Um, with better talent, but to lose Cade for that whole season and then you don't even get a top three pick, you fall to pick five. And I know they got a Sar who is now out for the foreseeable future, but it's just like, man, that's so unlike like these are top five picks. These aren't like these are like blue chip prospects. Like Asar Thompson, I know he has his offensive limitations, but look at the impact like Amen Thompson um, can have with the Rockets. Like imagine if like it's just like when you lose these really high caliber, high like talented players who like even like it's not even like it is about like the impact and stuff they can give you in their minutes, even as rookies and second year players. But like just to lose out on that time developmentally on an NBA court, like it's brutal. Um, It's really brutal when you're trying to rebuild. It just adds into that whole thing of the Pistons are just unlucky, even if some of it is very much self-inflicted. Um, yeah, it's a Pistons next. Orlando was pretty healthy for the most part. It's incredibly sad seeing these young talents have lost years like that. It is. It's brutal, man. It's like the Taylor Hendricks one as well. Like I know he's not a Piston, but like he's only in his second season. I think he only played 40 games as a rookie. Like it just, yeah, it sucks. And particularly for us as Pistons fans, we get a lot of our hope is invested in these young guys and just, yeah, the Asar one. Like I remember when it happened against the Mavs in like maybe March of this year, earlier this year. And he just left the game. We didn't hear anything for a week. He was listed as a an illness at the time, and then we got the news it was blood clots. But I think we all thought he was going to be back this season, but obviously not. Xavier, man, I wish you waited after the Lions game. The Lions won, didn't they? I assume they did. I haven't been on Twitter since I started this stream, but I think some people were DMing me throughout the game saying I've switched it over to the Lions for a lot more joy because the Pistons suck, which they did in that first half. Was pretty brutal viewing. But if you're saying "oops" because you think I'm gonna watch it, I don't follow the NFL. I've thought about getting into like following the Lions just based on like a lot of my Twitter like is just every whenever the Lions play, my whole timeline on Twitter is just flood with Lions talk. So I've I thought maybe it'd be easy to get into it, but I think so. For those that aren't based in Australia, I think if Lions games, so I'm assuming did they play must be Sunday afternoon for you guys. But a lot of NFL games for me start at like 3 a.m. in the morning. Like it's just, I can't, it'd be too hard for me to actually follow the team and watch most of the games live. I know they're good now and they're playing more like Thursday night, Monday night games and that kind of thing. But I just, if I'm going to follow a team, I need to be able to watch every game as much as I can. So it's too hard. But I'm very happy to see the Lions and obviously the Tigers played well in the baseball or MLB. So I know the Pistons are struggling, but I'm glad my fellow Detroit fans have got other teams to root for while this team tries to figure some things out. AFL clears. Who do you go for, James? And I want you, while I wait for your reply, I want you to have a guess who I go for. I'll give you a hint. They are the worst team of all time, like statistically in the AFL. Um, Go Lions. So are they like I guess maybe the Chiefs with Mahomes might be favored. But would the Lions be favored for the Super Bowl? Like to win it all? Like I had some people say to me they are. I know a lot of Lions fans don't want to put that jinx on their team, but yeah, I've heard that the Lions are like the team to win it all, even without Hutch. Yeah, there we go. How good's that? Man, as I like because I know Lions fans are more cursed than Pistons fans, believe it or not. Well, I know most of you can believe that, but so I'm very happy that you guys are getting to experience this. Um, oh, hang on, James replied to me here. Oh my god! Yeah, I go for the Saints. But so I know a lot of my US friends have no idea what I'm talking about here, but yeah, I before the NBA, I literally just the Saint. Like I used to go to every game of the Saints. Like my whole family would go. We'd sit like on the fence, like right down next to the field. Like I'm a bit more of a casual AFL fan these days. Like just because the Saints for the past 10 years have been, I think we've won one final since 2012, 2011. But I'm starting to get back into my footy. Like this season, I thought the Saints would be way better. Obviously, they weren't. They showed some stuff towards the second half of the season, which was good. But yeah, I'm more of a casual fan, but I do love my footy, my AFL for sure. Um, For sure. I actually think there's probably you could say the Lions and my AFL team, the Saints, are probably similar. Like the Saints, so we when you finish in AFL, when you finish at the bottom of the ladder, so I think there's 18 teams in the AFL. When you finish at the bottom of the ladder, it's not an official award, but we call it like you get given the wooden spoon. Like if you finish last, the Saints have the most wooden spoons in AFL history, and I don't think it's close at all. They've been around for 151 years and won one premiership, or what you guys call a Super Bowl. So, and the only time they won was in 1966, which was, I think, 60, oh, it's over 65 years ago, I think. So, man, I went though in 2010 and 9, I went to both grand finals, or you guys call them Super Bowls, and yeah, 2009, we should have won. That was heartbreaking. So, uh, I haven't, but since 2010, I have not had any joy following sport, and all I care about is sport. It's a lot of pain. Um, so yeah, no, not close in the slightest. Here we go, Xavier. Lions are probably the favorite to come out of their conference after this game. Got you. Got you. Because were the Packers playing well? Because Cody, who comes up here a fair bit, he couldn't join me tonight because he's a huge Packers fan, and I know I know the Lions just beat the Packers, so I assume that was a pretty big win. It looked like it was on the road as well. Um, I'm just gonna message Dave now, guys, because we've been going 50 minutes. I don't know where my guy is. He says he's technologically challenged, so maybe he's having some issues with his podcast. Just give me 1 second here. All right, I've just shot him a message. I appreciate you all sticking around. I don't know if you enjoyed this solo one. I mean, Vulture, James, Pistons next, Xavier. You guys should come up here and chat with me one day. I know, like, it's not for everyone, but we can just talk. We can talk about whatever you want. We can talk about Lions. You can educate me on NFL. I can tell you about AFL. Um, yeah, these are very loose and relaxed streams. So feel free to come up when you feel like it. I mean, if you have the time, I would love to meet you all, see your faces. We don't even have to show your face. If you want to show your face, that's fine. But at least we can talk in person. But I appreciate you all sticking here in the comments and waiting around. Should have implemented that in NBA so we can have some awards. I assume that's in relation to the wooden spoon. Can you imagine? Oh dear. It's yeah. You know what? Like I'm actually excited. So I'm excited to watch back this Nets game because like throughout these games, as I'm like posting some clips and stuff, I missed some plays. Like I think I somehow might have missed all three of Jalen Duran's blocks, which is funny considering I'm so on him about his defense, and then I somehow have missed all three of his blocks. So, yeah, I'm excited to go back and watch the game tonight. Um, who else? Who else can we talk about? Oh, my guy Ben Simmons. He, some people have been saying before tonight. Ben Simmons, I think you all know, is Australian, but I think before tonight, I feel like people have been saying he'd been playing really well, but I'm not gonna lie, I did not. He had some nice passes, which is good to see, but um, yeah, I don't know. But he looks to have lost a fair bit of his athleticism, and that's probably expected with the back injuries, but back surgeries. But yeah, seeing that yeah, that was sick, wasn't it? Like I spoke about it off the top here. I did not know he had that in him, like truly, because like I'm gonna go back and quickly watch this while I'm talking, just to make sure I'm not being too harsh. But uh, where is it? Yeah, so he goes up. Yeah, Cam Thomas was right there. Okay, they didn't like make physical contact at all. But yeah, that's a poster. Maybe I was a bit harsh on him before. Um, that was a poster for sure. Um, I think a lot of us didn't think he had that within him. But yeah, that was a fun moment. I'm definitely gonna be excited to watch that back for sure. Uh, if you've got any other questions, fire away because I'm not hearing back from Dave, and I'm probably only gonna go for another few minutes unless he gets back to me. Just gonna check the comments here. I haven't missed any. Um, I'm quite surprised how many of you have tuned in considering it's early on a Sunday. Um, Normally the games are only just starting by now, so um, yeah, I appreciate you all tuning in um, and supporting the show because it only goes as far as you guys take it. This one. Um, Ben still feels too passive and reluctant to score, like he's back to prior to the injury, but that's not the best. Yeah, he's I think Special K said it on the broadcast. He's like pass first, pass second, pass third. Like he does not look to score at all. And I think some of that's to do with he doesn't even want to get fouled, go to the free throw line. But um, yeah, it was a it's like I think someone said on the broadcast as well, like his first 3 or 4 seasons in the league, like he was on track for Hall of Fame. And I think you would kind of forget. I think he was a two-time All-Star, all defensive guy. It's pretty wild his drop off. Like I know just as an Australian, like he still is yet to ever play for the national team. And you bring that up with any Australian hoops fan, and they do not like Ben Simmons and the Boomers, which is the Australian national team, is not a thing. Like it gets a lot of people fired up. Um, But yeah, he was really good his first 3 or 4 seasons, so it is sad. Like, I think a lot of I think he hasn't done himself any favors with the way he handled his exit in Philly, but I think honestly his injuries have just kind of, yeah, really thrown his career around. Like back injuries at that size and when you rely on athleticism are just like not good. Um, I want Detroit to pounce on Brook Lopez if Milwaukee blows it up. Brook, I love Brook Lopez. I hate versing him because it feels like he always hits every three and blocks 10 shots against the Pistons. But even at the age, I think he's like 36 now. But yeah, I remember there was some like rumor over the offseason that he might have been on the trading block. And I remember just thinking that, like, even at that age, and I think he's on an expiring deal, maybe, or maybe 2 years left. Like, he would be immense for this team. Like, um, he would be awesome. I I I just don't know what would the Pistons give up, I guess, because if the Bucks are blowing it up, we want some young talent. Like, and I think Brook, a lot of contenders would probably maybe throw a first at him, like a late first. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they could get. But I love the call there. James, he needs to practice his 3-point shooting so he has no time to play for us. Oh, you're talking about Ben. Yeah. I don't know. The way his shot looks in some of those, like I think is it Chris Brickley who posts like the off-season workout stuff. Like Ben shoot like I've got the microphone here, but Ben shoots with his left and it's like across his face. And it doesn't look good. It doesn't look promising. And I think he's like now 26 years old, 27. I think he's pretty much set in stone as a player. Um, a lot of JD's blocks have been chase downs. He should get credit for that, but doing it in pick and roll coverage is much more impressive and needed. That's a great call. I feel like, yeah, the blocks he has had this season, as you mentioned, he has come from behind to swat it. So yeah, I think if we look at his block numbers, actually, just give me 1 second here. I'm going to look him up. Jalen Duran stats. I feel like so the past. Okay, so of the 7 games, he's had at least 1 block in 5 of them, and he's had 2 or 3 in 3 of those games. So this is probably the best he's ever been as a shot blocker in terms of just block numbers. So look, I think guess that is a credit to his activity. I think obviously there's still other things for him to work on, but yeah, like we gave him credit earlier in the show. Um, Yeah, like I'm trying to be as positive as I can and give him some love, even if I thought in the first half he struggled. But yeah, I think the last block he had was a chase down, or he came from behind to get that, and that's all effort, and that's he plays with that effort, like we saw in the fourth, and can just do that for 4 quarters. I think we'll all be really happy. Like in the first half, there was just one turnover where he like grabbed the rebound, took it up the court, tried to throw an entry pass in, and it got stolen straight away. Like that stuff there is even that's still showing a bit of effort, but it's just like just give up the rock. But yeah, you said it beautifully there, Beastly Arrow. Um, yeah, he deserves credit for that for sure. C and Ink, remember when Italians were butthurt that Bankero didn't choose to play for Italy? For Italy, I think yeah, I do remember that actually. Was that would have been before the World Cup last year? Um, yeah, no, I mean to be in fairness, if Paulo was Australian and he chose to play for the US, I'd be pretty upset. I wouldn't be throwing any personal attacks or that kind of thing, but I'd be you know, like I think back in the day before Kyrie played for Team USA, he does have Australian citizenship because he was born here, I believe. So I know a lot of Boomers fans and Australian basketball fans always want they cling to the slither of hope that Kyrie could play for Australia, even though it's not going to happen. So like it's funny, but I get why the Italians are a bit up in arms. Pistons next. Bickerstaff needs to have a shove and jersey grab jar for the bigs. Is that in a good way or a bad way? Is that because of his, Isaiah's? I think you're talking about actually now Stu's tech that he gave away. Is that what you mean? That they need to put money in the jar for when they give away those stupid fouls. I assume that's what you mean. Sorry if you mean the other way, and this we should want more pushing and shoving, but I assume you're talking about Stu's tech. Yeah, okay. We're on the same page. Yeah. No, that was I reckon I think at that stage of the game, that was Stu's sixth foul. It was around the start of the fourth. The game was around 8 or 9 points, I recall. I think the Pistons ended up getting a tech free throw out of that, but Stu fouled out, and then Brooklyn got 2 foul shots, which I think they missed one. But yeah, that was weird because the Pistons had the momentum, then Stu did that, and he's done that now in a few games. I think he had a couple definitely in the opener against the Pacers where Pistons have momentum, and then Stu just gives away these silly fouls. Everyone here probably knows I'm a huge Stu fan, but yeah, you can't be doing that. You just like ill advised. Like it's just even when you're playing a team like the Nets who aren't crazy talented, like yeah, you just got to contain your emotions a bit better. Uh, See an ink. I can't say this, but what annoys me about the Pistons defense is their lack of cutting, disrupting passing lanes. It is a kryptonite that other teams abuse to get their turnovers from the young guards. Um, is their lack of cutting, disrupting. So you're talking about on defense, their players not like getting in passing lanes. Because yeah, I hope I'm interpreting this right. But if you're talking about the Pistons defense in like guarding cutters and passing lanes, I'm with you. Like, how many times did we see the Knicks just absolutely exploit the Pistons with backdoor cuts from Brunson, Josh Hart the other night? Like, and we've spoken already about how like sometimes Cade's left his man. Like we used the one against in this episode of like Cade leaving Cam Johnson open in the corner, and just going to provide help for like ill-advised reasons. So I hope I interpreted that right, seeing ink, but I'm sure like it's a good point for sure. 313 report. You know what's funny? I actually used to have I made a this must have been 2 years ago. I made my first before I had Pistons Intellect or Pistons Jack, I made uh, a page called the 313 Report. I think I posted twice on it. So shout out to the name. I'd like to see the Pistons make a move for a prominent defensive big and a consistent 3-point shooter. I'd love a guy I could trust to take 8 to 10 threes a game and bang at least 35% of them. I agree with you on your first point about prominent defensive big. I think the Pistons, yeah, they desperately need, like, for this team to take a step defensively and to be serious defensively, they need a 6, 10, 11, 7 foot defensive big. Like, now we just spoke about Brook Lopez. Maybe you can find one like that for a season or two. But whether it's a young player, a veteran, like, yeah, they need that. I think that's a been talking about that for sure. So I 100% agree with you on that. I think a lot of us still want it to be Jalen Duran, but whilst he was good in the second half tonight, he's got to really prove a lot in the next this season. Um, the consistent 3 point shooter, I'm gonna push back. They've got two: Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley. Those guys are getting up probably at least 6 threes a game, and they probably would get 10 up if they played the minutes. I think TSJ is shooting like 50% from three this year on the season. Beasley's probably hovering around high 30s, low 40s, but I think they've got those guys. Unless you're talking about a consistent 3 point shooter who can defend, then I'm with you. But I think they've got those guys that can take that volume and hit that percentage for sure. Got two of them. So yeah, like I said, unless you're talking about guys that can do that and defend, then I'm with you. They don't have that at all. But yeah, I think they got the shooters, and I think on the most part, like honestly, Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. Like if I had to power rank the Pistons vets this season in terms of expected performance versus actual performance. Like I think Tim Hardaway Jr. has been the best because for what I expected. Like I think someone tweeted out the other day, like Quentin Grimes is averaging like 2 points on 15% shooting for the Mavs. Like, and I think I wanted to keep Quentin Grimes. I really liked him, but Tim Hardaway Jr. Let me see. I'm going to bring up the stats, but I think THJ has been awesome. Like for what we expected. Like obviously long on the season, right? So 7 games in, Tim Hardaway Jr. 13 points, 46% from the field, and 49% from three. On I reckon that's around 8 a game. Like I think THJ has been awesome. Um, like he misses some wide open ones, but for some reason, sidestep threes with the hand in his face, he hits them. So, it evens out. And I think, yeah, he's been the best of those three in terms of what we expected compared to what they're doing. Then I would probably put Beasley second. I think he's performing like how I thought he would. He's knocking down threes. He's got a quick trigger. He's not afraid to shoot. All things which I expected from him, and I'm really enjoying. But he has had a couple of lean games. But I think he's probably sits second in terms of a power ranking. Then Tobias is third, but he's on the come up. Like his last definitely in both Pistons wins, he's played a significant role. And I think he's, after a slow start, figuring some things out and figuring his role in the offense. So that's been good. So still great points to run through report. I appreciate them. JD actually played with effort on the defensive end tonight. He sure did. That second half and definitely that fourth quarter. When Stu went out with his 6 fouls, JD came in and closed the deal. And gave it his all. So hard to critique him for anything. Anything in that last quarter. Uh, thank you for the name. I love it so much. Oh, so your 3-on-3 report. Have you been commenting just on some of the Pistons Jack stuff recently? I assume that's you. Appreciate you, bro. It's a great name. I love it. C and Ink. They should have picked up Drummond in the summer. We have some snipers. If the guards provide clean throws, they make them. Yeah, great call. I think Andre, he would have helped for sure. I think he still wants to come back to Detroit, and I think he will end up here at some point. But yeah, just a guy of his size, like Andre is far from perfect defensively, but yeah, he's huge. Like he's massive. And I feel like he's a better defender than what Jalen Duren is now. Uh, I'd probably say he's like even with Stu. I think Stu's a better defender than Dre, but Stu's just a bit small at times. So on a nightly basis, I think Drummond would have been good, but I'm not sure how he fits in. Like I don't think Andre's coming to Detroit to split minutes with Duran and play like in Stu. Like I think like Paul Reed. Like I don't think Drummond would have been happy with that role here unless the Pistons traded one of Durant or Stu. Like I think Paul Reed, whilst I think he could have got more minutes this season, Paul Reed is kind of a third string big at this point of his career. So I think in terms of morale and chemistry, that works well. But yeah, I think Dre would definitely help for sure. THJ is a silent killer, man, but I do prefer the loud and clear communication Beasley's providing. Yeah, Beasley's vibes and leadership and morale for the team have been awesome. And he spoke about it actually just in his post game interview uh, about how this is the first time he's really got to be a leader on a team and be vocal. And yeah, I've loved his vibes for sure. I think uh, he talks a lot, like you said, and I think his communication on the floor is great. And off the court, I think he's great for the vibes and keeping these young guys, keeping the mood light, but also just keeping them like engaged. And Bees has been on some winning teams with the Timberwolves, with he played playoffs with the Lakers, even if he didn't get on the court much. He's with the Bucks last season, so yeah, he's been around. Um, TSG got traded because the Mavs folded after one playoff run. Yeah. No, it's look, I think they got a pick. Did they get a second from us? And I guess you got Grimes who um did they maybe move THJ because they wanted to get cap space for Clay? Maybe that was why. But then why did we give a pick up? I can't remember. Off season feels like so long ago. Yeah, scenic. I assume that's in relation to Beasley, 100%. Uh, what's good, Gabe? Appreciate you for joining us. Pistons next. We need a defensive minded big and a forward who is oh, I haven't even brought it up yet. We need a defensive minded big and a forward who's a two-way guy, ideally long term. Second is a SAR. This year, Detroit has to decide if Durant is the guy long term. We need size in the paint badly. Yep, agree with it all. Uh, absolutely. I think we need a defensive minded big and a two-way forward. The Pistons just need some more two-way players in general. Like, I think they hope Ron and Asar can become that. I think Cade can become that for sure. But I think before Cade can become that, the Pistons need to find uh the Pistons need the players they either have now, they need to find other guys who can help take the scoring load off Cade on a consistent basis. Like, I think for him to really commit to the defense event and put energy there, Cade needs his Jalen Brown. Like, if Cade wants to be the Jason Tatum like, I know they're different players, but like a two-way star, I think he needs more help offensively because right now, even though he had a down game tonight, he puts too much of his energy has to go into the offense and make sure it's going because on a nightly basis, you don't know where that second option is coming from. So, but I do think Cade does have that two-way potential. And Ivy to a lesser extent. I think Ivy can maybe get to an average defensive point, but we'll see on that. Yeah, that's where I got it from. So, yeah, I think throw onto a report about Andre. I think it was on the Title League podcast. So yeah, Drake M. Do you think Fred Vincent is getting to work with Asar on his shot, or is this something like no physical activity at all? Completely agree with you on safety first. Yeah. No, so Fred Vincent, yeah, there's been the beat reporters have tweeted out clips on Twitter of Fred working with Asar, like 100% working with Asar on his shot. You can actually it was more in training camp, but you can already see the improvements Asar is making with Fred, like just some adjustments to his form, like especially with his arms, like where the placement is of the ball. And it looks really encouraging. Obviously, we haven't seen it on the floor. So, but yes, Fred is definitely working with Asar. He's definitely working with Jaden Ivey. He's working with all the young players. So, the only thing Asar can't do is like one-on-one or like 5-on-5 stuff. Like, I even saw the other day someone tweeted out a clip of Asar with like going against a coach who was kind of like he wasn't like bumping him like one-on-one style, but he had like some sort of bag or something defending Asar. So he's doing as much as he can, like, and we've seen it. So we got 2 or 3 seconds. Okay, so yeah, maybe it was just to clear money so they could sign Clay. So thank you for that, Beasley Arrow. Uh, Well, this is what I asked before. Like, I don't want to give up. I'm not the best with trades, honestly. Like I struggle with like trying to determine what's equal value asset wise because I feel like if the Bucks are moving on from Lopez, they're gonna want some form of late first if they're rebuilding or something like that. But like the Pistons, if I'm the Pistons, I'm not giving up any first round picks, and especially not for Lopez, who I think could help this team, but not long term. Like I'm not giving up any first unless you're getting a guy that's going to be here for the next 4 to 6 years to pair with Cade. I just yeah, we've seen the issues the Pistons have had trying to navigate trades because they owe this first, which I don't even know who owns it now, but they owe this first round pick, which is probably never going to convey, but it limits them from trading multiple firsts. So maybe the Bucks might want Marcus Sasser, a young guard. I'm not sure. I'd like to hear. I'd like to hear you guys your thoughts on what the Pistons could give up. Yeah, I agree with you. We're not giving up a first from Brook Lopez. Maybe 29-year-old Brook Lopez, but not 36-year-old. Um, if we had a Gobert type player, we would look way better. Durant has potential, but lack the primary big defensive skills besides rebounding, and Stew is too short against some bigs despite defensively being good. Yep, agree with all of that. It's probably the biggest I think I've discussed it the most on this podcast. I'm sure all the other great Pistons content creators and whoever you get your Pistons stuff from have spoken about how much the Pistons need defense, a defensive anchor, really, a starting defensive big. It's there's a lot of chat about the backup point guard position, but it's quickly turned into the fact the Pistons don't have a starting caliber defensive big on their roster. And right now, even with a solid, really encouraging game from JD, it feels like they might not have one on their roster. So, yeah, I agree. That Gobert type would be because they have to be. The thing is, like, I think for Cade Cunningham to fully flourish, he needs a pick and roll threat. So, obviously, a spacing five would be awesome, but unless that spacing five is athletic enough to provide Cade an actual pick and roll threat as well. I still think if you're going to build around Cade, you need that starting big needs to be a rim running big and someone who can you can throw lobs to. I think Cade has a good handle. He's a bit loose with his handle, but his handle's good enough that he can get into the paint and create looks, but he still needs a screen on a lot of his possessions to get into the paint. So you need someone. I know a pick and pop big can give you that, but I just still think the Pistons to pair with Cade need a defensive big that can be a pick and roll threat as well. Even if I think a 5-out offense Cade could thrive, I think he also probably needs more of that a really good screen and roll big. Um, Wow, you guys are just coming through with the comments here. Thank you. Look, I've gone for an extra 20 minutes than I thought it would. I don't think Dave's joining us. I'm not sure. He messaged me saying he was coming on, but um, yeah, I can't get onto him. So I'm just going to go through these last few comments here, guys, and then we're probably going to wrap this up. But before I read this one, just want to say thank you so much because I've done this solo. We're meant to have fans up here, so I apologize. I think that the early start time, the Lions game being on today, I think it's just been a bit hard to get people up. So I really appreciate all your comments because you've made this show uh, go for way longer than I could have done myself. So, see an ink. I was worried about not having a backup guard more so over the summer, but now it's clear a backup physical big is what we really need. I wonder what Trojan will do by this deadline. Going to be very interesting, very, very interesting because I think someone else said it before. Like Jalen Duran has this season to prove his value because next year he's still contracted with the Pistons, but um, yeah, I think JD is not Trajan's. Trajan didn't draft Jalen Duran, so there's automatically not as much of an attachment. So I feel like Duran and Ivy this season were two of the main guys to watch as it relates to the Pistons roster build going forward because they're both at points. They're in year 3. They haven't signed extensions. I would, unless Ivy continues to play this way, which I hope he does. I think he'll get an extension, but from what we've seen from Jalen Duran, I don't think he's getting an extension so far. So he's got a lot to prove. But the trade deadline is going to be very interesting because I am of the firm belief Trajan just wants to get a good draft pick. Like, I think the moves he made this summer were safe moves to help this team um, remain in games and obviously win more than 14 games. But I don't think these moves signaled to me a team trying to make the play-in or playoffs at all. So I think if the Pistons are trending in the right direction and actually going to push for the play-in, maybe he tweaks the roster. But ultimately, like, I feel like he's selling at the deadline. Like, I think if a contender comes to them and offers them a first for Malik Beasley, I think he would do it because Beasley's going to be an unrestricted free agent, no matter how good or bad the Pistons are. Like, I think Trajan's an asset. Um, he's just trying to get as many picks as possible, I think, and as many assets. And I think whether he has to do that by taking on a bad expiring contract at the deadline, I think he's just trying to get as many picks as he can. And I think ultimately he knows this draft is loaded at least in the top 5. Correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't done much draft stuff yet. It's way too early for that. But yeah, I think at the trade deadline, the Pistons will be sellers. I would be shocked if they're going out. Even if they are like playing pretty well, I'd be shocked if they're going out and trying to bring on, make a move to really make the playoffs. I think Trajan is looking at Cooper Flag and all those other players. Because I think we all know deep down that Cade's a guy for sure. And I love what I'm seeing from JI. But I think it's quite obvious the Pistons need a wing or a forward, like a true 4, that can play both ways. And I think that's what Cooper Flag gives you and potentially some of these other guys in the draft. Like Asar, as much as I want to believe offensively, and I do think he's going to get better offensively, I I just I just don't see him ever being like a true offensive threat every possession down the court. Like, I think he's going to have his 20-point games. I think he's going to average 15. But I think the Pistons, like, and I just not sure Asar's jumper ever gets to a point where, I hope I'm wrong, but like, if we're just looking at what it is right now and the numbers he's shot. Oh my God, Dave's here. I'm just going to quickly finish my point here, Dave. But I basically, to round it out, I think the Pistons sell at the deadline and are trying to get more picks of some sort. And I think Trajan's looking at this draft. Doesn't mean the Pistons have to finish with the bottom 3 record, because we've seen the Pistons finish with the worst record and consistently get screwed. But I would be shocked if they're looking to make a win now trade at the deadline. All right, we've got Dave here. I didn't think he was going to be joining me.
Yeah,
Dave,
sorry. So I think things happen in life.
you're right.
I got an important call. I watched the Lions for too long. Go Lions, and and then it's a hard process for me to do my podcast. But I wish I could have listened to everything that you said. But
Yeah. No,
I
I'm just happy you're here. Well,
yeah,
I shout it. I've already said it, but the people in the comments have kept me going for another half an hour. So they're the
yeah.
real ones here. I appreciate them. But Dave, how you feeling after the win? The
Well,
Pistons win. I'm happy the
yes,
Lions won, but the
yes,
Pistons win.
yes, yes. Well, it's a long season. I'm glad they won. The Nets were hot, man. The Nets were 3-3, and they had I think they lost one of their games in overtime, so they were rolling. And Shooter and Cam Thomas were tearing it up and scoring like 30 a game, and we held them down really well. And I still, the last time you had me on, you asked me about Duran, and everybody's ready to give up on him. Every podcast I listen to, they just trash him. And he may not be the answer. He may not, but he's 20 years old, and everybody's all high on. I talk about narratives on my podcast. So many people listen to podcasts and they regurgitate the same narrative. I can listen to 5 different Piston podcasts and I get to hear the same
I hope this isn't
people.
directed at me.
No, 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 no. But anyway, the point is that he's too young. There's too much time left. There's a lot to go, and he tonight 5 for 5, 13 points, 17 rebounds, 3 blocks. And is he a perfect player? He's not perfect. But everybody loves Stu. But and tonight Stu zero. Doesn't take a shot. He scores 2 points. He fouls out in 14 minutes, and people love him. And I've always said, contended that as a coach, and I was a coach for 40 years, and I love him. I love what he's about. I love how he supports his teammates. I love how he supports the game. I do think that him and Duran both think that they're so macho. They think that they're just tough guys, and they go overboard sometimes. And that's part of their strength is their physicality and their aggressiveness. And so that is a good thing, but they cross the line and it hurts the team at times, I think. But I don't. I mean,
No, it's a good
everybody's
point. We spoke about Stu and that kind of altercation he had with Claxton where he gave away the
yeah,
tech foul and like we're lucky that Claxton can't shoot free throws, but those he's
yeah,
done that
yeah,
multiple times this season. Yeah, so I
yeah.
agree with you on
And
that.
he's done it other seasons. But he just anyway, he's a good player, but he's not everybody, he can score no points. And like the one game what game was he was so good he only made one basket, and he was tremendous, so made a difference in the game. But he's just not this. He's short. Doesn't have good hands. He can't jump, and so he's a great backup center. I mean, I love having him on the team, but I just think when everybody says send Duran to the bench and trade Duran, and again, I heard you a little bit talk about trades and what we should do about trading and this and that. But the thing about trades, I don't know if I said this the last time. It takes two teams to make a trade, and they have to have something that you want, and you have to have something that they want. You can't just say, I'm for making a trade. I'm making for making a trade, but we don't need. I mean, you were right. Robert Lopez Brooke Lopez that would be stupid for us to trade any asset for Brooke Lopez. Just like I said, even Brandon Ingram. A lot of people wanted Brandon Ingram, but he's going to be a free agent. What are we going to give up for him? He doesn't shoot threes. He's not that old, but we would have to give him like he's going to want a max contract. Nobody wants him. Anybody in the league could have him, but nobody does because he doesn't shoot threes and he is injured quite a bit and
Can I can
we're
I
re-
ask?
yeah,
I agree with you. I just wanted with the Durant thing because after my last game against the Knicks and he struggled in Philly when we last spoke. My stance on potentially sending Durant to the bench was I thought he looked like he was losing his confidence against the Knicks. He looked lost,
he
and
did.
that's what I thought. Send him to the bench. I'm not
Yeah,
out on him as a player.
yeah,
Yes, he's got to improve, but I just thought his confidence was starting to look shaky on offense. And that's when I was like, oh, I don't.
yeah,
JD, no matter what offense, is always pretty high energy and giving you something. But I was just like, that's why tonight was so good. But that's why,
yeah,
like, my reasoning to send him to the bench was
yeah.
he looked lost. And that's when I was getting concerned for his confidence.
One thing that you have to look at players. I mean, again, I was a coach for a long time. You have to know the personality of your players and different players. So Stu has been all bought in to coming off the bench and being a backup center. He wanted to. JB said, your strength is getting offensive rebounds. He accepted that role wholeheartedly. He loves that role. But I think Duran is very prideful. Maybe overly prideful, maybe not, but I think it would affect him negatively not starting him. I think that even I don't know if I said this that I think we start Hardaway and we play Hardaway, we're gonna JB gives him a lot of respect because he's a prideful player, and and again think he thinks he's better than he really is, but he's been really good for us, and he doesn't give us much besides scoring, but his shooting is real, and he's shot the lights out for us, and he's going to have some bad games, but he's still been a positive player overall for us. And his defense is not that good. We're not a good defensive team, really. And, Tobias's lateral movement is really bad. If anybody wants to take Tobias off the dribble, but it was great to see him play so well tonight. But anyway, the point is there's trades are fine and it's fun to talk about trades, but people don't even respect the Pistons when it comes to trades. We don't get what we should have get for when we traded the Knicks. We should have got our first round draft pick back last year, for example. And we can't make trades because we don't have a first round pick to trade to
Yeah.
teams. And then we there's just and we even when we traded to Dallas, we had to give up Grimes. We should have. Hardaway was a negative asset. Hardaway was a negative trade that nobody wanted. Nobody in the league wanted him. Just like obviously nobody's wanted Brandon Miller. I'm Brandon Ingram. And so that, yeah, it's fun to talk about trades, but it's just harder. There's Trajan would like to make a lot of moves. I think he wanted to get more trade assets last year, and I'm sure he tried, but people just were unwilling
Well,
to. There's a lot
that's
of things.
why. Yeah, that's why I don't think like the people saying trade Duran. Like I think that's crazy because it's like
Yeah,
you're not going to get anything. Like I just like people throw out Walker Kessler for the Jazz, but I'm like, I
yeah,
think Kessler's just a better player. He's done more in the NBA at this point.
yeah,
Like I don't think they're going to do that. Like Duran, you need to build his value up. Like
yes.
um,
But
so
but
I
here's the
agree with
thing.
you on that.
Kessler's value was sky high his rookie year. It was so high. Last year they couldn't. They wanted to get rid of him. They didn't start him. They moved him to the bench. He didn't play well, and everybody was. I mean, everybody in Utah just they didn't like him. They were all trashing him. And then he's but now and so he was on the market. I mean, I know that if they could have got something they thought was worthwhile, they would have got it. But um, he's played great this year. So now they're not going to be trading him. I mean,
Not
anytime
for
soon. I mean,
Duran.
they would have to what?
Not for, especially not for Jalen Duran.
Yes,
Like,
yes,
yeah,
that's it. Yeah, things people they think things that aren't going to happen. They think everybody thinks who's going to want the players that we want to get rid of. That's the thing,
yeah,
and I again I think we value always everybody does. It's not just Piston fans, but everybody values their guys more. But anyway,
yeah.
I have one hot take for you,
Hit
and
me.
all right, so. I was coming on before the season, and I said that I didn't think that there's no way that the Pistons were going to make the plan. I hear all these people talk about, oh yeah, we can make a plan, and of course anything is possible. Teams can get hot. We've seen teams turn around. I think the Cavaliers when they signed Mitchell the next year they jumped 22 wins. I think I don't know which year it was. I think OKC might have jumped 22 wins, so that would get us up to 36 or something or and whatever. And so, but the thing why I said that is not because I didn't think that we were going to be really improved, but I think we're going to be inconsistent this year. We're going to be inconsistent. But now I'm looking at what's happening, like with the Raptors and Scotty Barnes is hurt and they're struggling, and Atlanta's losing and they got guys hurt. And
Oh, so changing your tune.
well, what my point is, so I think a lot of teams are going to start tanking, and my point is that 36 was a low number. The 10th place team won 36, and I just didn't think we realistically were had a good chance to get into 36. I think that number might drop. I think a lot of teams are going to tank, and a lot of teams might lose at the bottom. And so I think the Wizards. I think they're finally trying to tank, and but they're going to win some games, and then. New Jersey, they traded and got their first round picks back so that they could tank. And now then they won 3 games right away. And so I just think that a lot of teams are going to be trying to lose harder than Detroit is. And I mean, I don't know. I don't remember now if Atlanta, I don't know if San Antonio has their first round pick this year or not. But anyway,
Yeah,
my point
I
is,
think San Antonio do have their picks. I don't think the Hawks have a pick
yeah.
this year. So I
Oh,
think you're right.
yeah, and so I just think that the number the it could be like a record low number for wins to make the 10th to make the play in. But I hate being in the middle. I hate where you draft 11th or 12th every year and you win 30 some games, and everybody Piston fans rightfully so. We've had this worst stretch in history, but I just tell you. So I one thing I didn't tell you, like I live 3.5 hours if I drive straight and drive fast over the speed limit to go to the Palace of Auburn Hills. In 2004, I went to every playoff game, every round, every game, and so I got to see that. I went to the Bad Boys playoff games, and I watched those teams. And the fans now haven't seen that. A lot of fans like yourself, and so they're so anxious to win. But Trajan, everything he's done has shown us that he wants to. Like you were spot on. Everybody that you said they want to not tank, but they want to get a good draft pick. I think
Yeah.
I agree with. They would have. Not that they could have traded, there's, like I said, every people were, they talked about ridiculous players that, who's center from New York that went to OKC. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
Hartenstein.
yeah. Everybody talked about us trading from. He wasn't coming here. And I mean, even Markel Fultz. I mean, I think that if he was just wanted a contract, and I don't know, I can't say that Trajan's offered him one or not, but I just don't think he would want to come here because there's not minutes for him to play, and we're on a bet. So what would it look like if you are trying to get your value up and you come
Yeah,
to one of the worst teams and you're not getting to play? That's not going to help you any. And so I think he feels like he's better off waiting things out and try to wait till there's an injury or something and jump on a team. Because I like him. I would like him team, but I love that we're staggering. So before last season ever started, you can go back and listen to my podcast. I said we need to stagger Ivy and Cade, and we need to do just what JB's doing. I said it last year before the season started. I said it during the season a bunch of times that we need to stagger those two. But Monty didn't listen to me. I don't know why, but he didn't listen. So
I want to ask you. So I went through this earlier, but you've spoken about how you're a coach for a long time, and there was that. I thought this was a pivotal moment in the game. 8 minutes to go, or 7 minutes to go in the third quarter. Dennis Schroeder clearly pushes off Tim Hardaway Jr., knocks down an elbow jumper, and the Nets go up 8. And JB is irate. He's
right.
yelling at the refs. I don't know how he didn't get a technical foul. Cade ran
Yeah,
over, kind of pulled him back. Luke
yeah,
Walton pulled him back. From that point onwards, Detroit went on a 14-4 run, took the lead back, and then obviously held the lead for the rest of the game and won by double digits. How much, I haven't been a coach, I haven't played
yeah.
high level basketball. But do you think that, I feel like that might have ignited something in the players, seeing their coach give a crap
Yeah,
like that?
it can, and it does a lot of times, and even getting into technical.
Oh no, we lost Dave again. This happened last time. All right, while I wait for Dave, I saw some good comments here. Um, Hang on, I'm just going to take him off the screen. Um, you have to build up Duran's value, but you only have this year to do so. What's his value if we don't give him an extension? I think a solid big is better than banking on potential with too many youths. Um, oh wait, Dave's back. Oh, sorry,
Yeah,
Pistons next. I'll get
I
to this one.
called me, so I don't know. Again,
You're good.
I'm
You,
stupid with technology,
you
so I
do
don't know
know,
what that.
just for future, you can, because you obviously have a computer to do your podcast. Just
Yes.
go on Twitter and click on the
Okay.
link for next time. Click on the
Yeah.
link through your computer, and it'll bring this up just the same way.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what to do because see, I'm still uploading. It takes me a lot. My computer's slow, and my podcast is still uploading from today. But
Okay.
I love that. I was so angry last year about Monty not caring
Yeah.
for his team. We got screwed over and over again. JB was fighting in the Knicks game. We're losing, and we're losing by a lot, and JB is still fighting. And then tonight he was in their ear all night. The thing that's worked for me when I was a high school coach, I would if I thought that we were getting a game where I mean if the fouls were like 7-2 in the first half against and and then I would really get after it. And I was a much better coach. I mean, I was much better at about controlling my temper when I was um older than when I was younger. But anyway, I would really kind of get after the refs and kind of stick after them, and then in the second half, I would just let off. I wouldn't say a word to him. And then most of the time, we started getting a lot of calls,
Yeah.
even the other way. So it's really tricky to know what to do. But I just love the fact that I meant to mention it on my podcast tonight, and I didn't do it. I love the fact that he is they're fighting and competitive,
Yeah.
and he shows the players that he cares, and the players are more competitive, and
Like,
it
I
matters.
love it. Well, I was going to say, I said this before, but I'm not sure how many of his press conferences you've got a chance to watch, but he's lost his voice in like half of them. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he is working at it. And like some people are going to be critical of like his adjustments and that kind of thing. And that's fair, whatever. But I
Yeah.
just think on the whole, like you spoke about, like he is in it. He's in the ref's ear the whole game. And it's so refreshing. Like it's awesome.
Yeah, everything. I mean, obviously his rotations are so much better,
Yeah.
and he has a purpose in everything that he does. He has a plan. He has, he's has built interpersonal relationships. And I said this, I got a little bit concerned about at the next game. He basically benched Ivy, and and then and he bet took. I love that he jerked Duran out, and Duran wasn't anywhere to be found. Towns was wide open, and Duran was
Yeah.
supposed to be guarding him, and 1 minute into the second half and he's coming out. And I love that about him. But I didn't quite get that Ivy played so few minutes, even if he made mistakes, because Duran got to come back in. Cade played 32 minutes, and then Ivy
Yeah.
played like 19 or something. But I still felt confident because I've heard, right from before the season ever started, JB established a relationship. He talked about it multiple times with Ivy and talked about what his goals are and what he's looking for. And that was a key, I think. I worked really hard as a high school coach and I put in way more time than other coaches did. And but the key thing was my players knew that I cared. They know that I cared about them personally and that I was there in their corner. And I might not always do what's best exactly for them, but they knew I was going to do what was best for the team, and they
Yeah.
knew that I cared about them. And that goes a long way when things do. And JB even alluded to this a while back, that when things start going wrong for somebody and you've got that base build. But I like to talk too much, but
Hey,
one
far
thing you
away,
you
my
talk
friend.
you're talking about Asar. So I go down and watch Asar. And I talked to you about how it bothered me so bad. I wanted to jump onto the court and tell Cade to arc his shot up. And he made that 1-3 over Drummond that was so tough, but he was forced to arc it up higher because Drummond was closing on him. But Asar, I'm going down there, and Asar has his left hand all the way behind the ball. You
Yeah, the
can't shoot
guide
with your
hand
left hand behind the
crazy.
ball. And how does this happen in the NBA where you got all these shooting coaches? And again, I talked to John Beeline, and he was working. He didn't feel like the Piston organization supported him. He thought he would have been way more effective, and I think he really helped Duran improve his free throw shooting. And I think he knew exactly what to do. Again, everybody could think Cade's shot was flat, but Beeline said we worked with him on it every day. But how does somebody not know that you can't shoot consistently with your left hand behind the ball? You just can't.
Well, can
I
I
mean,
ask you, from what you've seen from, because we had a question here earlier about Fred Vinson working with Asar Thompson, and I've actually seen that guide hand be corrected, and he's now got the ball more in front of his face on his shot. We've only seen very small
yeah,
snippets from like training camp, really. But
yeah.
have
I
you
haven't
seen
got to
some?
see it.
All right, I'll have to send you some clips because
Yeah,
they definitely are there. But he has that guide hand has it's still like not perfect, but
yeah,
and we've got to see it in a game, but. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, but if you haven't seen it, you
yeah.
can't answer. But
Yeah, I hope it's the case. It's a no-brainer. And like I said, though, just like it was about Cade, though, extending his arm up, your follow-through needs to be high and not
yeah,
up, not out. And Cade's still isn't always high. Cade's arc still isn't always there. And he struggled one game, and I know he shot his mid-range and it was really flat. And it's just obviously the geometry is the ball has way more space to get through the bat to the cylinder if it's dropping down from a higher angle. And and I know Cade's trainers have said, we're working on getting his arc up. That was like 2 years ago, and
yeah.
they still didn't do it. Again, I love Cade. Like I said, I want to go out there on the court,
Well,
but I think he's
if
aware
you
of it.
if you look at his numbers, he's actually shooting the ball pretty well. Like,
Yeah, no, he is. It's better than it was last year. His arc is
yeah,
better. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
there's no doubt his arc is better, for sure,
But
and his numbers are good. So I'm not. I just see you see some guys that
yeah,
they just shoot the rainbows. Chauncey Billups, man, his shot went. I remember as a young kid going down to games and watching. That was what all my players, I just preach, get the ball up high, hold your arm, extend your arm up and high, and hold your follow through long. And, I just have seen, I had my teams made more threes than a lot of teams in the history of high school basketball. And my daughter led the nation when she played in college in 3-point
can
shooting
I with
percentage.
the follow through? Yeah, no, it's pretty incredible. With the follow through, do you hold both hands? So like the
Well,
guide hand?
the guide hand comes just above your head, but
Yeah,
it
yeah,
stays completely sideways. it
Yeah.
doesn't turn. You
Yeah,
can't
no, the
even
turn.
not just start. Yeah, it's got to just come up, but it comes slightly above your head, and then your shooting arm goes
Yeah,
way up high and extends all the way, and it doesn't come out. If it comes out a little bit, most players shoot flat, hit dead center back
that's
of the
how
rim.
Gates looks a lot on his misses.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, but I'm confident he's gonna get it. But it's hard. I mean, I know, and he had that. Like this could be good for Asar. I mean, I just pray that he gets to play again. I think I shared with you that he's my second favorite player to watch on the Pistons, and it just kills me that who knows, and it's heartbreaking because he loves to play more than anybody, and
yeah,
basketball has been his life, and now it's like taken away from him. But how can you ever even feel confident, even if you get cleared? I
yeah,
mean, there still would be in the back of my mind, and it
yeah.
still would be in the back of that it still can happen. I mean, some players have started playing, and then it's come back again. There's a guy that got cleared with blood clots just recently, right? That you know who
Koloko,
I'm talking
yeah.
about?
He signed
Yes,
with the
yeah.
Lakers. Yeah.
So I was hoping that
But I was
they were gonna.
saying, yeah, I was saying though, I think that was like a year-long process from when the Raptors
Yeah,
sat him down, then they waived him, and then the Lakers signed him, and he finally just got clearance. So, because we were saying, and I'll ask this to you and Derek, I'm going to get to this question next, but what I was saying, I feel like we don't see Asar this season. And like like I want him to be 100% healthy. If he comes back on the
yes,
court, it's because he's allowed to play. But I
yeah,
just feel like if it gets to Christmas, we haven't heard anything. Gets to Christmas,
yeah,
what's the point in even bringing him back? Like, let him.
yeah. I
Like,
know.
what's your feeling on? Do you think we see him this season?
Oh, I can't ever. If I had to bet, I would
Yeah, if you
bet
have to bet, yeah,
we're not. But I would say I'm not confident in my bet. I mean, again, like you said, we hear nothing. We hear nothing. There's some like committee or something, some panel or something that
Players
makes this
Association.
decision. Yeah, and so how often do they meet? What are they doing? How do they get data on him every day? I
Yeah,
have no idea what's happening. The Pistons have never done a good job of letting us know what's going on. No matter who, they just never reveal anything to us. It's just been frustrating that not that, people should have their own privacy about things, but I still think that, I don't know.
I
But
do
maybe they
believe,
don't know.
Trajan, that like this one's completely out of their hands. Like, I don't think there
Yeah.
is
So
any up.
yes.
So, yeah, but
Yeah.
I know I
And
agree with you on the other stuff.
and how would,
Previous regimes have never let us in on injury. Like, it's yeah,
and
it's
how
been a
would you,
frustration.
what the heartbreaking thing is every medical expert could say that he's fine, and then he could die on the court,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
how is that going to make anybody feel? But it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking for me as a fan, but my heart breaks for him because I just know that kid just lives to play
Awesome.
basketball,
Yeah.
and I love to watch him play. He is, other than shooting, he is in the, but hopefully his shot gets better. Hopefully he gets to play, and yeah, anyway, I
I was
appreciate
gonna
you
ask,
having me on. Thank you for having me on. I love
of
me
course.
on, and I
Have
wish
you got to
I
go? Because I was gonna ask you
no,
some more
no,
questions.
no, no, I can talk forever. I can talk
Okay,
forever.
I know.
Can I?
Oh, let's like so. Derek here didn't watch the game tonight. How did the Pistons play? Just a brief summary. Like, how did Detroit actually play tonight?
We certainly didn't play our best. We didn't shoot our best. We turned it over 11 times in the first half, which was miserable to watch, but we fought. We played with energy and with aggression, and I love the way we played. We really came back in the second half, and we fought back, and our veterans hit some big shots. Kate started coming around, but still, I mean, we had we to win the game when so many things went wrong, and that's saying something because I mean, certainly we would have lost that game last year. So I can't say that we played great, but it was a great, nice win, especially after the Nick debacle, and so I was happy, and
I think
I'm
I
in,
like how you brought that up because after that Knicks game, I was so nervous for tonight's game.
yeah,
It was it's too early for must wins, but it kind of was a must win for me. Like, especially after the way they lost that Knicks game, I just didn't think anything but a win would feel
yeah.
good tonight.
Well, I was my big fear. I was so scared that if we wouldn't have beat the Sixers, if we would have came into tonight's game with no wins, and we would have felt the pressure. And here the Nets are playing good, and they're at home. Everybody thinks that we should automatically now beat every team that's, we did well against the Celtics. They're the best team in basketball. We did really well against them. But, the psychology of games, is just a whole nother thing. And so I think that we just got to look at that and know that we're not going to win every game that we should win. And I hope that we win some games against some teams in the middle that we maybe shouldn't beat and that we do beat. But I just think that, yeah, I thought that that I was nervous about tonight's game. And
Yeah,
maybe the Knicks game, partway, the Knicks are great, and there was probably a letdown. We didn't play with the fire. Here's my thing about sports. Here's my thing about teams. That happens is so often one team is playing to win and one team is playing not to lose. And when you play not to lose, you don't play well. And so that's like in high school basketball, you usually play home and away with teams in your conference. If a team plays at on the road and the teams are fairly even and they lose on the road, and then the next game they play that same team at home, I can tell you that like 80 or 90% of the time, the team that lost the first time is going to win. And like in high school basketball, there's been countless in the state of Michigan where a team will beat another team twice and even three times during the regular season and then play in districts, play them in the tournament, and then lose. And because all of a sudden you're playing not to lose. You're you're the hunted instead of the hunter, and I just see that happen in sports. And so
yeah,
yeah, there's a lot of things that can happen, and but I'm real confident. If Tobias starts playing good, and um, Hardaway shooting pretty decent, and Cade and Ivy have been still really good overall. They're really good NBA players, and I like JB's leadership, and I believe in Cade's leadership, and I believe in um,
yeah.
Tobias's leadership even. But it's hard for him to lead when he can't make a shot,
Well, I
And it
thought
just
he's been. Let's talk about Tobias just a little bit because I thought
yeah,
the Philly game he was really good in the second half after struggling, and he played a role in them winning that game. Uh, the Knicks game was a bit of a write off, but I thought he was probably one of the few players who actually did something in that game, at
yeah,
least. And then tonight, I thought he had a crucial 4 or 5 possessions towards the end of that third quarter where he had 3 post ups on mismatches,
yeah,
hit all three, and then on the one he didn't
yeah.
shoot, he kicked it out to
Huge,
Beasley for an open
huge.
three. That was huge. Like that was a. I
Yes,
was starting to feel like they're going to win this game there, and that's what you
yes.
need from Tobias. And
I
I
felt the
think this is the
same way.
Tobias we all want. Is
And
is that?
I thought that was the Tobias we were going to get.
Yeah.
So I've been a Tobias lover. So I'm not always right, but about draft picks and things. But maybe I'm lucky, but I've been right about more than I've been wrong. So, uh, 2 years or the year before we traded for Tobias from Orlando, I wanted him really bad. I mean, I couldn't. There was rumors that Orlando was looking to get away from him. Here's this guy. He was like 24 years old. He averaged like 8 rebounds and 16 points and shot good percentages and on limited minutes. I wanted him really bad. And then the next year, Stan got him, and he was my favorite player. And then
Yeah.
we traded him, and I was livid. I was right away. I mean, the Blake Griffin trade was stupid, and I mean, everything played out just like I thought it might play out with the Blake Griffin trade. I mean, he played one phenomenal year, and so for a lot of Piston fans that haven't got to see what I've got to see, that
Yeah.
was really good for them. And I wouldn't want to deny them that, but I just know that um, that it was a bad trade because we gave up. Tobias was young, he was a rising star, and we gave up our first round draft pick, and
It was the
so
beginning of the end, that trade is kind of if you go back to why the Pistons have no assets. Yes, things haven't been managed properly.
yeah.
That's why, because you got nothing in the end for Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond, you held on to him for too long and you got no
Yeah.
first round picks for him.
And
So
we held
I
on too
get your
long
viewpoint.
we held on too long with Bogdanovich. We held on, it just yeah, but again, it's not easy to make trades. But I just think that you're right. But the problem is here, it's just like, you talk about Ingram or anybody. Blake's a great player. Blake is a Hall of Famer, but he was old. He was making a max contract. He had a bunch of years left, and he was always injured. and we were rebuilding, and we didn't have enough. We only had enough just to do like what we did. We got to play in one round of playoffs, and then we were terrible. But
Yeah. Yeah, it's a I think though, like you were just saying how Tobias was your favorite player, and it was like that trade, yeah, it was Tobias at first. I think that first turned into SGA for the Clippers. Just to rub
yeah,
salt into the wound. And like, but I agree, Tobias, like I've always loved Tobias. Like that 2017-18 season, he started on fire when the Pistons were like 14-6, and like he was looking like baby mellow, like with that mid
yeah,
range. But yeah, it's
but
been really nice to see him these last 3 games because this is who I think you
yes,
and I and a lot
yeah,
of fans thought we were going to have, and I
yeah.
think if he can keep building on this, like him
Yeah.
being able to just expose a mismatch like that just helps
Oh,
Caden Ivey so
teams
much.
can't
Like,
teams can't do that. I mean, teams
yeah,
can't. Cade gets mismatches and we don't. And Cade sometimes wants it when he knows he has one, but we don't. Teams. I mean, I used to watch when teams. Have you heard of who Muggsy Bogues is,
yeah, of
or
course.
Spud
Yeah,
Webb?
yeah,
And teams would always try to take advantage of those guys, but just like never worked out. They'd like to force it into the post, and the other team would
yeah,
like help and double team the pass, and then they would jump it, and then they wouldn't do it. But I do really think that one thing that Piston fans, you going back to what you were talking about, we had no assets, and so there's so much luck involved. Oklahoma City is brilliant. Stan Presti's brilliant and what he's done. And I mean, they could get any player they wanted. If anybody in the league wanted Giannis, and who knows if he's going to be made available, they have the package. They can give players and picks, and they can overpay. They can afford to overpay, which is why I can't believe the Bulls didn't get a first round pick, a
Kareem.
late first round pick when they got
Yeah,
who's
yeah,
the defensive
Giddy,
guard that.
Josh Giddy.
Yeah, no, yeah. When they traded
Oh, but
Giddy,
Alex Caruso.
yeah. Why?
Yeah,
Why? Everybody in the league always wanted Alex Crusoe, and how you couldn't. But that's again why some teams, the Pistons don't seem like people respect them to give them a fair trade even. But anyway, those teams, there's so many teams that were so lucky. The Rockets were so lucky. Now the Rockets they got too many young players. I don't even know what they can do with all those players. But they had Harden, and so they got really good
yeah.
value for Harden. A lot of teams had something in the
Well, the
Orlando got to they traded Vucevic, and they
yeah,
got
and got like 2 firsts that
yeah,
turned into Franz Wagner.
and
Yeah,
they got
Got
Wendell Carter.
got a June.
Wendell
Yeah,
Carter's better than Vucevic
yeah,
any day. I would love. So I would love to trade for Wendell Carter. And Wendell Carter looked like he was maybe that they might Orlando might get away from him. So that's a center I would want on my team. But
yeah,
there's not that many that you would take. Um, Duran was ranked in some power ranking for centers like 17th,
yeah,
out of 30. And so I don't know. I just think there's not the center position. There were a dime a dozen, and we do need. It would be great to just get a guy that can rebound and block shots and come in and play,
yeah,
15 to 18 minutes a game and run the floor. But everybody, I heard you talk about this a little bit. I just got to hear a little bit of your thing. Cade, when we watched Cade play before we got Marvin Bagley, and he never had a lob threat,
yeah,
Cade was so much better after we got Bagley, and he just set Bagley up for lob after lob after lob, and now he has that there with Duran, and so that's a valuable thing to have with Cade Cunningham is to have a
yeah,
lob threat. So if we get rid of Duran, are we going to get a lob
yeah.
threat? Everybody wants a center that can block shots and shoot threes. How many of them are there, Jack? Name all the
Not
centers in the
no.
league that can shoot threes and
Chet,
block shots.
Wemby.
The one that's
I mean, Brook
Miles,
Lopez can, but he's a bit old. But I know what you're saying. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, Miles Turner is a guy
Miles
that,
Turner. But I tell you what,
and
I like what you said there though, because was saying this a little bit earlier though. Like, I think Cade needs a big that can roll because I feel like
yes,
Cade's handle's gotten better. It's still a bit
yeah,
loose, and he can get into the
yeah,
paint, but he needs someone to screen and open up the paint for him. And I know you can do that a little bit with the stretch
yes,
big, but I think he needs the lob threat to be
yeah.
dangerous. Like,
It's
so
been proven.
yeah,
We saw even people didn't like Marvin Bagley, but he provided that for Cade.
yeah,
That when we first traded and got him,
Yeah.
it made a huge difference. It made Cade a lot better player. So yeah, Stu can't you can't lob to Stu. He
No.
can't catch it, and he can't unless he gets his steps just right. He can't get over the rim.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
just want to
he
answer
just
this
can't.
question quickly. We just spoke about Asar. There's no updates on him, unfortunately. We all wish he
Yeah,
was back. So I think Pistons next in the comments brought this up earlier because Dave, you're talking about luck in rebuilds and just in general. Like Pistons next was talking about how Detroit lost Cade Cunningham for his whole second season. He was their first overall pick, and now that looks like and is feeling like they're going to lose Asar for at least the
yes,
foreseeable future. Who's your fifth overall pick after you just finished with a 17 win season? Like
yeah.
there have been bad moves made by certain front office members, like, but they've also had no luck, and it's
Well,
just like, yeah,
look at the lottery, Jack. The lottery.
yeah, it's,
What if we had Banchero? What if we had Chet? We could have had Chet. We should have had Chet or
I
Banchero.
know we
We
should
could
have
have
got
had
one of
I
those.
we could have what if we had Jabari Smith Jr.?
I would
He would
rather
be
Ivy, but I get what you're saying. I
yeah,
get.
and then
I mean,
I
imagine if you
didn't
had
feel
Brandon Miller.
yes, that's what I was gonna say next. I
Yeah,
mean, obviously everybody wanted Wemby.
yeah,
Obviously, in the stinking Spurs, I would use worse language. I hate the Spurs. They're so lucky, and they got to make all these trades. They got to trade Murray for, and they got all these draft picks, and they're smart, but they've also got lucky with where they got to. They even got lucky this last draft. They moved up in the draft, and two
yeah,
different picks they got that were higher. But so there's another time I was right. Everybody, Scoot or Brandon Miller, you can go back and listen to my podcast. I was all aboard Brandon Miller for multiple reasons
yeah.
over Scoot, and I mean,
No,
and of course,
I wasn't that high on Brandon Miller, so I was extremely wrong there.
I was.
Yeah, no, I think yeah, I don't think many people like the actual big media people. I think a lot of people had Scooter too and draft
Yes,
people, but
yes, yeah. Everybody
in
thought,
hindsight, it's like Miller's a wing that can shoot and shoot
yeah,
really well at a
yes,
minimum. Like,
and
yeah,
and
what are
he
we
can
doing?
take the ball to the basket, and
Yeah,
he's gonna be an all NBA player.
yeah, he
And
looks. I haven't watched much this season, but last year, yeah, he was fantastic.
but
Um,
we had Kate. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no, you're right.
But
What
we
were you
had
gonna say?
Kate. We had Kate and Ivy, and we draft Scoot. He's undersized and he
Yeah,
can't shoot. And so why do we got two guards.
yeah,
We're going to draft the undersized guy. We need a wing. We needed the four player. I mean, I wanted even last year, and he got this terrible injury, Taylor Hendricks. I wanted Cam
yeah,
Whitmore. That's who I wanted. And in hindsight, I watched Cam Whitmore play, and he is phenomenal. He had a great year last year. Now he doesn't. I don't know how much playing time I haven't got to watch Houston play, but he tore it up at times last year. But he's got a little bit of a surly personality, and I don't know quite, not that if you're a great player you still would want him, but yeah, I don't know, he's not quite, I love Asar. I mean, just
yeah.
even though Cam Whitmore was more of what we needed, I want Cam Whitmore because he could shoot, and Cam
Well,
Whitmore has
yeah, we all love Asar, but I think at the time him at pick 5 was unexpected. I think people had more
and
him at
Taylor
7 or 8. Yeah,
yeah, and Taylor Hendricks, he just busted his leg, like he
yeah,
just
it's
running down
horrible.
the court and his leg just
I can't watch
just
that stuff, but I actually spoke about
terrible.
that earlier for some reason.
Yeah.
That was horrible. I wanted to ask you, Dave, so I'm probably gonna get out of here in the next few
Yeah.
minutes, but I wanted to ask you about the Lakers game tomorrow. What should we be expecting or what are you expecting from the Pistons tomorrow?
Well, it's very, very interesting because obviously the big matchups are LeBron and AD, and so who do we put on that? Who? Of course, nobody can stop those two. They're two of the best players in the world, but it's still going to be interesting who, and that's why it kills us not having a SAR. There's all these good players that, when you're playing them, I would put a SAR on LeBron, and I'd put him on AD, man. I would put him on anybody. But I think that that's going to be a challenge. But the Lakers they have given up the highest percentage at the rim of any team in the NBA. So that's a very
Really?
good sign for us. Yes.
That's
And
good.
it's
I didn't know that.
surprising because AD is one of the best shot blockers in the league.
Yeah.
So obviously the rest of their team is not good at it. And it's so important for Cade and Ivy to get to the rim. So if they can get to the rim, I mean, Cade tears up against teams that don't have a shot blocker or the big guy. I mean, even guys, the teams when like Gafford plays and stuff, guys like that. And who's the big guy that's hurt for the Knicks?
Robinson.
Yeah, yeah. So when Mitch Robinson's out there, those guys make it harder for Cade because Cade doesn't he doesn't elevate. He's not explosive and stuff. And so, but when he plays against teams that don't have that at the rim, then he can be. And then obviously Ivy is such a blur. He can get there and. He does like he shot 9 free throws tonight, so he was very his shooting percentage was terrible, but I still say when you look at a player, you look at how many points they score and how many shots they took. And so if you're making 7 free throws, even though your percentage wasn't good, you're valuable for
Yeah.
you help your team win. But
Yeah.
yeah, so
Uh,
I'm excited. I'm excited to see. We'll see how the Lakers come in there and how again we'll see how the if the Pistons are just going to really go for it and be aggressive. Of course, we thought they would against the Knicks, but I think there was the emotional letdown of it's that after they won that Sixers game that they didn't come in with the energy and the force that they did tonight.
yeah.
Whether they won tonight, they were behind in the first half tonight, but it was obvious that Duran and all of them came in with much more energy, even though they still turned it over 11 times in the first half. They were competing and they didn't compete in the first quarter against the Knicks. So I think they're going to compete against the Lakers. I think they're going to give a great effort. And of course, it always depends on who shoots. We haven't even had a great game shooting wise. So I would always think that between Hardaway and Tobias and Beasley, that one of them would shoot great, one of them would have a solid game, and one of them might not shoot so
Yeah.
great. But there's been so many games that we lost earlier in the year where all three of them shot terrible.
Yeah.
And so we need guys to shoot. And obviously, just guys, Cade needs to play and a good game. And I don't know that they have anybody. Who do they have that can guard Cade? I
Yeah.
mean, when we played the Knicks, Cade did a good job. But when you have Bridges and
Bridges. Hard.
OG guard, yeah, and they're tough. And Tibbs is a great defensive coach, and so that was hard. But I just don't think again the Lakers they've been giving up a lot of shots at the rim. I just wish we do have to do better because Cade still is getting blitzed some, and Cade still is getting tough defenders on him, and still teams are over helping on Cade. You just watch when he gets the ball, teams are sending somebody else. There's always a wall, kind of, when Cade
Yeah.
tries to do things, and everybody's real physical with him. They put their very best defender on him, and so I mean, to do what he accomplishes is not easy.
Yeah.
Even what he did tonight. But that's why he had one shot in the first 10 minutes tonight.
Yeah.
He was 3 for 5 in the first half, and that's not acceptable. I mean, I still put that on Monty or JB that he should have.
Monty.
Yeah, that he should have gotten
Yeah.
ran some actions where
Well,
they have a play.
I agree because that's I mean, look, the Pistons won the game, but Kerry taking one shot in the first quarter is like it's like
Yeah,
I tweeted something out and people are like, yeah, but they're putting all this pressure on him. But I'm like, he's your guy, and
yeah,
they were playing Simmons at the 5, like get into the paint,
yeah.
like and like you said, some of that's on JB as well. But yeah, you can't even if they're sending two to him or whatever. Like I just feel like your best player cannot be taking one shot in a quarter or
And I
five at
hope that
halftime.
JB learns this. Hope that he's new. He's coached the team 7 games, and so all this stuff, seeing what teams are doing against Cade and his, reacting to it. I'm optimistic that he will come up with schemes that can counteract what is going on when they do that. So
Yeah.
yeah. But thank you for having me on.
Of
I
course,
love being on.
Dave.
Anytime you want me on, I'll be on. So apologize for late. Like I said, I got a phone call while I was doing my pod, so I had to restart it halfway through. So I never edit my podcast. I just go on
Yeah.
and I just talk. I never
Yeah.
edit it. And so I had to restart it. And I went out and watched the Lions play until I knew they was confident they were going to win. And so I got way behind. And
No,
so
I
anyway,
appreciate you making the time, Dave. I love
yeah,
having you
and
on. I
Yeah.
will send you a link after every game, and if you can
Yeah.
make it, please come up because I
Yeah.
know that people love having you on here. Just everyone probably knows what your YouTube channel is, but just tell the people
Yeah.
the name where they can find you.
That's the Piston Fanatic podcast on YouTube. That's the only, I used to do Spotify, but it didn't seem like anybody listened to my Spotify. So I had to take a lot of time to upload it. And so I just stopped doing it. So I just do. And then I am on Twitter. I think it's Piston Fanatic 1
Yeah,
on Twitter. So you can see my
I tagged.
podcast on
Yeah,
Twitter.
I
So I,
tagged Dave in one of my recent tweets, so you can.
thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
I don't
So
think most people watch it. Most of my listeners, and I just want to really shout out, man. I have phenomenal listeners, and I went through some hard personal things this summer. And I have a serious health issue going on, and so I was not on for 2 months, and so
yeah,
I was having like over 1,000. I mean, there was times. Well, I'm gonna tell you one thing, Jack. I had more listeners, man, with Monty being stupid. I would have 4,000 viewers or 3,000 because
yeah,
everybody was so fired up about how stupid, how
yeah,
we all disagreed and everybody was so connected on that. And I could put out any headline about that.
yeah.
So I'm not doing that now. My takes aren't controversial. People want controversy and
They
there's
do.
not as much controversy, but anyway, like I said, I love the Lions. I watched the Lions my whole life. I suffered through all their terrible seasons for 60 years, and then I still would rather watch the Pistons than the Lions. And the Lions have this phenomenal team that is fun to not. They're not just great and win, but they're fun to watch.
Yeah,
But I still, whatever's wrong with me, I love my
the
Pistons.
Pistons.
I love the game of basketball, and then so I just
Yeah.
always been this Piston fanatic. I'm I'm a diehard. So
You
anyway,
are. Well, I
yeah,
appreciate you, Dave. Have a good night. I
yeah,
hope all is
yes,
well with you, my friend, and we'll have you back
yeah.
on as soon as you're free. But enjoy the
All right,
win. Enjoy the Lions win, the Pistons win, and we'll
yeah,
talk soon, my
yes,
friend. See you
yes,
later.
sir. Peace. Bye.
Peace, man. Bye. All right, guys. I'm just gonna do one last look through the comments. I really appreciate all of you sticking around. We've gone for 2 hours again. I think this is the third stream in a row. We've gone for 2 hours. But uh, of course, Derek, anytime, my friend. I'm trying to get to as many of these as I can. It's a bit harder when I have someone on the stage, but yeah, we'll try and get through all of these. Uh, Pistons next. Didn't Chicago get a first because they were desperate to get Giddy more than anything? Um, Probably. I mean, I actually think Giddy's looked pretty good on the Bulls so far. So, and Caruso, I mean, I know he's a role player, but I'm not sure how good he's been so far for the Thunder. Like they're obviously killing it, but yeah, I still think I think just based on how many picks the Thunder have, people were just shocked that the Bulls weren't able to get something. Um, touched on this one. Jonathan Isaac, oh yes, he's definitely a big that can shoot and block shots. He's just always injured, and yeah, but that is a good shout. I think he's more of a wing though, just a big wing than an actual big. But I hear you for sure. He's still an excellent player. Uh Pistons want to make me weep. Jay Huff. Oh yeah, you were in my DMs on this one, man. Jay Huff. The Memphis they just pull these guys from nowhere. Like Jay Huff, I think I saw the other day he had 21 points in 14 minutes, and like four of them were threes. Like, ah, one day we'll get our player out of nowhere. See, Nick, if Aiden is let go by the Blazers, do you think he's worth a shot for cheap? Well, I think issue with Aiden is he's got this huge contract for at least another 2 or 3 seasons at like 30 mil a year. So that would be why I say no, because he's not cheap. He's really expensive. Even if I think he played well towards the end of last season. Uh yes, AD always challenges the Pistons. He always gets like 5 blocks, I swear. Um, Final one here. See Inc. Tomorrow's game is dependent on Stu, in my opinion, more so than the vets or guards. Oh, I think Stu will need to be much better. Like because I think it's going to be Stu and Durant going against Anthony Davis. They're both going to need to play well. So yeah, I think the vets stepping up is just as important, and then hopefully Caden Ivey can uh I thought they were fine tonight, probably a little bit below average, but hopefully they can come through. That's going to do it for today's show, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Final thing is, if you want to be a part of this, if you want to come up on stage, I've seen a heap of you in the comments here chatting away, making my life easier up here, which I really appreciate. But it would be also cool that some stage this season, next game, next week, you feel like you can come up here and have a chat. I'd love to have each of you up. So if you would like to come up, DM me on Twitter or Instagram is the best way, and I will send you a link. And you come up on here and we can chat for 5 minutes or 50 minutes, as you've seen. So I would love to get as many of you up here as I can throughout the season, but I appreciate you all nonetheless for being in the comments. Like, subscribe. If you could show any love and any support that way, I'd be greatly appreciative. But if not, I appreciate you being here no matter what. But until tomorrow, as always, go Pistons.